Hi, I'm Sara Campbell and welcome to Freediving Legends. So here I am again with William Winram. I got so absorbed in his story about sharks when we met the first time that I completely forgot to talk about freediving and a whole load of other fascinating stuff that he's involved with. So we thought we wanted to do it again.
Round two.
Here we are. Thank you for seeing me again. It's
Pleasure.
really great.
Always a pleasure.
So, the freediving side of your career. We talked a lot about the sharks, and obviously freediving is essential to what you do with the sharks. But how did you, if we trace all the way back to your childhood, where did your passion for the ocean, for freediving begin?
I think it started with my father. He was a volunteer search and rescue diver for the Coast Guard. He was a scuba instructor, and back in those days, if you wanted to learn to scuba dive, you had to learn to freedive first. And I can remember my brother and I, the deal was if we were well behaved on the pool deck while he was teaching, at the end of class we could hold onto his neck and he would swim under the water with us, and that's kind of how we started. And I remember at 9 and 10 years old, he had custom wetsuits made for us for the cold waters in Canada. We were going and diving in the bay near where we lived. Age 7 in Hawaii. Diving in the sea with them, diving in the pool, and we have a guest.
That's okay. Oh, did you just burp? Carry on. We'll pretend she didn't do that.
So my brother and I were always happiest in the sea. It seemed to be the least complicated place on earth to go. Yeah. And I've always done something, whether it's surfing, sailing, or otherwise in the sea, so it was a natural progression. I used to spend 3-4 months in the winter in Mexico, surfing, spearfishing, diving, getting away from the cold Canadian season. And
so how did you progress then from that sort of the lifestyle side of freediving into the competitive side? When did that happen for you?
It happened, I was in, it was late 2004, early 2005, I was in Hawaii. I found a spearfishing shop, which I had never seen. And they had all this gear, all this equipment. And at the time, the friend that I was spearfishing and diving with couldn't dive the same depth. And I said, well, why don't I'll go to the shop and see if they have courses. And I saw an ad on the bulletin board for a U.S. freediving champion offering private lessons, etc. And I said to the owner, so he's a spearfishing champion? He goes, no, he spearfishes, but he's a freediving champion. I said, what is that? And then he explained to me the competitive sport, which at that time I could care less. I was interested in information and details. I did a half training with him. I had never, ever, ever dove on a line. I had never pulled myself down a line. And I had never been past 22 meters. And he asked me at the beginning of the session, he said, what would you like to take away from this? I said, it'd be really cool to make 100 feet, which is 33 meters. But, whatever. If it doesn't happen, I don't care. Just teach me. I want to know about safety and, anything that's new. So, we spent time talking on the beach, talking about breathing. When I shared with him my background in internal martial arts and breathing there, we went out. I breathed up. The first pull down, I arrived, I think, at 23 or 24 meters, and it was a 2.5 minute dive time. And I'd never pulled on a rope, so super relaxed. Yeah. Breathed up, relaxed, pulled down. The second dive, I hit 33 meters. Finished the day, I can't remember, was it 44 or 45 meters. And what I really liked was, at a certain depth, there was this profound inner peace or tranquility, which I had discovered through meditation, through Tai Chi, through Qigong, but doing that would take me an hour session to arrive to that profound state. And so there was something in the sea, the pressure was stopping my internal dialogue. And I really wanted to continue. And I said to him, so could we do this again? And he said, well, yeah, actually, I need somebody to train with, so I'll teach you, the competitive safety protocols, and yeah, we could do this. And I was like, how much? He said, for what? To do this again? He goes, no, I need a safety diver. So basically, I'm going to train you to do my safety, and then I'll do your safety. So we started training together, and it wound up, there was a competition being organized. And I was kind of torn. Do I, don't I? I don't really care, but I did it anyways. Qualified for the World Championships. And then, the rest is history. I actually had this silly idea after the World Championships, because I placed top 10 in 3 of the 4 disciplines.
Yeah.
I thought I could train, get a higher ranking, and get sponsors and earn my living.
Yeah, right.
Right, exactly.
Okay. But you were a professional swimmer before this, right?
Wasn't professional. I was a high-level age group swimmer.
Okay.
Age 14, I was ranked in the top 10 in the world.
Wow.
In my age group.
Okay.
16, I posted a 50-meter breaststroke time that was one of the fastest in the world at that time. But I was plagued with back problems and back injuries, etc.
But I mean, that with your sort of Eastern philosophy, martial arts, Tai Chi, I mean, those two things seem to be, the perfect marriage. Like everything came together for you, right?
For sure. Competitive freediving, you bring in all of those Eastern arts, and you bring in that background in competitive sports and in the athletic style of things. And one of the things that I really appreciate is, unlike any other sport, I surfed big waves for years. I love surfing big waves. I love the challenge. I love the excitement. I love the adrenaline. And when you're staring at a wave that's 8 meters high and you're petrified, you can get aggressive. You can, I'll just do it. I'll do it. Freediving's completely opposite that. Adrenaline is not your friend. You're always trying to chill out, to calm down, to go into a really meditative space. At the same time, it's still very physical, but it moves in a different direction. So it was an interesting challenge, to pursue absolute depth. I don't find the pool so much in that direction. The pool, yes, you're not going to approach, say, a dynamic or a static aggressively, but it's more an athletic discipline than absolute depth. There's so many other components to absolute depth that come into play.
Yeah. And I mean, when we met in 2007, you were competitively training and working towards improving your no fins. You went through the arch.
Yes.
How was that?
That was very interesting. If you want the long story.
No, we'll have the short one.
The short one. Okay.
Or do you have a medium one?
I'll give you the medium one. That wasn't planned.
Oh, really?
No. I had attempted the world record in no fins on April 1st in Hawaii.
Right.
I blacked out at 22 meters at 3:45, I think it was. So I was more than a minute, 20 seconds overtime due to heavy current. And we actually looked at the bottom footage, and instead of swimming up like this, I was swimming like this.
Oh, shit.
In the evac to the surface, I got water in my lungs, so I went to the hospital. Short version, I couldn't dive again, and I left. I came back to Geneva.
Okay.
Big loss of confidence.
Yeah.
Then I had 4 root canals on the same tooth, which you don't even want to hear that story. And then I get a call from Fred, and he's like, I'm bored. He's in Brussels. It's coming to spring. He says, do you want to go to Egypt and swim the arch? And I was like, whoa, no. He came out to photograph the world record in Hawaii, and I said, I don't want to disappoint you a second time. But honestly, I haven't dove since Hawaii. I don't think I have the confidence to do the arch, let alone I don't know what my face is going to be like after all of these dental procedures. So he said, well, let's just go. We'll do photos. We'll shoot photos around the blue hole. And, So I talked to Michelle, and she said, yeah, go. So we started in the bay, and 25 meters was like being stabbed in the face with the scar tissue. Great, so we go to the blue hole. I go to 45. It's like being stabbed in the face again. So the next day I said, okay, set the line at 65. I go variable, and I either destroy this scar tissue or I'm done.
Yeah.
And at 48 meters, it was the most agonizing, searing pain, and there was like this pop in my face. And I pulled up, and he looks at me. I go, I think I'm okay now. Oh, wow, that hurt. And then that evening at dinner, with Patrick Schnorf and Natalie Evsienko.
Yeah.
And she says, do you want to do the arch with me tomorrow? I said, you're going to do it without fins? She goes, no, I'm going to do it with a monofin.
Yeah. Okay.
Why not? So we set up timing, etc. I was going to go ahead because I'm slower, but I was a little heavy on my weight, and I was faster than we expected. And Fred was waiting to photograph. Natalie was following, but she was quite far behind me, and she said when she saw me enter the arch and how dwarfed I was, she panicked and went back to the surface.
Oh, really?
And I just kept swimming.
Yeah.
I was negative.
Dropping as you went through.
Yeah. And turned and swam up.
So how long was your swim up? So it's going to be deeper than 55 if you
It was 61
Wow, okay.
on the gauge. The total dive was 236.
That's pretty fast. For
Yeah,
no
but
fins?
I'm pretty fast in no
yeah,
fins.
yeah, you are.
So
And did it feel good to have done it?
it was a big reclaiming of my confidence
Yeah.
to do that. Plus, I was the first to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't care, if somebody did it in a G-string after the fact. Before that, you don't know if it's possible.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those things. On the way down, I got the urge to breathe at 24 meters. And I just decided, you know what, I'm either going to make it or I'm not, but I'm going to figure it out in the process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Cool. So then that was kind of, right, you're back and off you go and
well, I was back to start the process
Yeah.
of coming back.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was in 2007 and you finally got a world record last year, the year before?
Last 2013.
2013
Yeah.
in variable weight.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was the journey?
Well, variable weight
To
was, having missed the record in 2006 due to organizational issues, then 2007 due to the current and the blackout, I kind of got into this cycle of chasing the record, knowing that I'd done the depth, but I was hit and miss with my equalization. But instead of scaling back and, nailing my equalization, I just kept pushing. And so 2009 was pivotal. I didn't have much time to train before the World Championships, but I still managed to do 86 meters.
Yeah.
And I could have gone much deeper. And then the difficulty was, I finally decided, okay, I took an accounting, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses? In no fins, technique is not a weakness, it's a strength. I've swum up from 25 meters with 16 kilos at 0.8 of a meter a second. So technique is obviously solid. It's equalization. So I started to work on equalization. I had always been working on it, but I really said, okay, I will not announce if I can't clearly equalize to that depth.
Yeah.
Using the sled as a tool to work on that. And in 2013, I managed in the start of my training to equalize head down to 94 meters. And then, came to Egypt, and the obvious record to go after was variable.
Yeah.
Arrived within the first week to 100 meters with no problem, and just kind of thought, okay, well, I'll work on equalization, I'll do variable, and if there's time remaining in the week, then I'll look at no fins. And it never wound up. When I finally did the variable record, I'd had enough, and I want to take a break.
Yeah.
And then last year I broke my arm and tore the shoulder, so now we're starting back at no fins.
Okay, cool. So going back to the no fins, what's your training schedule like? I mean, now your arm you've gone through the rehab, you've gone through the strengthening.
It's still being rehabbed. I still don't have 100%,
Okay.
but I just started getting back in the water, swimming down and swimming back. So I've been between 65 and 70 meters repeatedly, and just refining those dives, refining the equalization head down again, because it's
you reversed it, yeah.
Yeah, it's different from head up.
Of course.
It's much more challenging. But in 2013, I had been to 94 and equalized at 94. So,
You know you can do it.
yeah, it's just getting back into it. And this is the first time I start the season's training with actually just depth-focused training, because in most other years I would start with a tagging expedition where I would be doing 60, 80, 100 dives on exhale to 20 to 40 meters for several weeks in a row. And then I'd have a break for a month or so before I would dive again. And that was a really good way to acclimatize. So I've kind of got when I first did, I think the first no fins dive I did this year was 62 meters.
Okay.
And, it felt fine, but I felt my chest. Not to say that I felt pain or anything, I just felt the pressure, which for me is a sign that, okay, I need to revisit that until I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck
Thank
with the
you.
rest of your training. I mean, my background is I came to freediving as a yoga teacher. I had this insane year in 2007 when I went from a beginner to having 3 world records in under 48 hours, and
Yes.
everyone was just like, yeah. I mean, if I look back at it now, I wouldn't even attempt to do that. There was the naivety of the beginner. But you know, for me, it was the Kundalini yoga, which I think really gave me a knowledge and a wisdom and an edge and just, you know, I call it a toolbox almost, that I could kind of, you know, I'm struggling with negativity, I'm struggling with fear, I'm struggling with equalization, you know, and there was always something that I could go to the yoga for that could help me to just put everything in perspective and move on, and I never encountered any barriers, which is why I progressed as I did. But what for you are the elements of your spiritual practice that helped you in the water?
I think the biggest part of it is learning to be patient. When I started Tai Chi, I was 16 years old, and it was because our assistant coach had started us as competitive swimmers on meditation, and I was sitting in the room going, yeah, this isn't going to happen again. And he saw that, and he got it, and he said, you don't really like sitting still. I said, and what was your first clue? He said, how about martial arts? So I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. You know, I'm 16, yeah. So I arrived to martial arts, which is Tai Chi, which a bunch of middle-aged women, and I'm thinking, so you bore your opponent to death. And the teacher there could see that I was like, I'm not coming back. And he took me aside and he said, this really is a martial art. And I said to him, I said, so you bore your attacker to death? Or you make him laugh because what you're doing looks so retarded? Yeah. And he said, no. And he explained why you practiced it slowly. And then he demonstrated with his wife. They basically attacked one another. Yeah. And it was one of the most beautiful things I had ever seen, let alone for a martial art. And he said, so if you come and you persevere, he said, I will teach you some of the martial arts. I was like, sold. But as that progressed, I moved on. I started training with another master and learning new things. And then I started reading and researching and realizing there was so much more to it. And, you know, I started asking questions, particularly of English-speaking masters, and they would say, well, I wasn't taught. And I realized that there was this whole area of things that weren't really taught because either the teacher didn't know or they weren't willing to teach it. And the more I studied, the more I realized how much I didn't know. And I realized it becomes frustrating, but at the same time, you realize that this is a lifelong process. And one of the things that I realized in competitive freediving, there was a point where I was almost going to quit because I wasn't reaching my goals. Yeah. I wasn't enjoying my training. Yeah. I was focused on the goal, which was very much what my competitive swimming career was like. And I realized I'm not going to quit. I'm going to figure this out. And one of the masters that I studied with, he said, if you've been doing Tai Chi for 100 years, you're still a beginner. There's still things you can learn. You know, so I think that the internal martial arts, the Qigong, they help me in those moments like you described where you have self-doubt, you have stress, you're wondering if you're going to do this, you're going to do that, an ability to just decide to focus. It was the same with, you know, the first time we got in with the Great Whites. Taking the decision. It reminds me of one of Yang Shifu, who was one of the last Bagua masters I studied with. One day out of the blue, he attacked me, and he went feral. It was as if it was a real attack, and I... And he looks at me and he goes, blah, blah. And I knew. And basically what he said was, yes, he's more skilled than I am, and my chance is very, very small to even defend myself with him. But with fear and crippling fear, I have zero chance. And he says, in that instant, you have to take the decision. You defend your life, and you defend it to the end. And, you know, I think Martin Stepanek said it. If you're clipped to the line, do the fucking dive. Pardon the harsh language, but if you're clipped to the line, you're doing the dive. So doubt has no place. You just let it go. And I remember 2009, Herbert and I training together, and I had finished an 80-meter qualifying dive, and I was thinking, geez, I'm going to have to do 83, 84 to get on the podium. I don't know. That kind of a jump. And Herbert says, was the 80 meters as easy as it looked, or were you performing for the other competitors that were watching? And I said, both. You know, I was putting on a show. He goes, 92. I said, come on, Herbert, 12 meters. He goes, no, we trained together since 2006. I trusted you when you told me, trust me. Mm-hmm. So he convinced me. I had 3.5 days. So
right.
92, but guess what? When it came to write, psychologically, there's no way I could deal with 92. But then 86 was looking really good, so I announced 86. The day of, oh my God. In the first warm-up, what were you thinking? 86, and the chatter, but when I clipped to the official line and it was in the final 2 minutes, it was done. No, I was focused on other things because I went, you know what? You're going to do the dive no matter what, so just focus and do the dive and pay attention to each aspect of the dive that you need to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had an interesting. It was unintentional, but my third world record, no fins, 56 meters. I'd done 80.
And that was amazing, considering your technique at that time.
Oh yeah, thank you
Sorry.
for sharing. I know, no, it was. I hate looking at those videos. I'm just like, oh, God.
Yeah, but you did it.
I did it. Yeah. No, but that night, I'd done 81 free immersion. I'd done 90 constant weight, and I'd announced the third one, and I was thinking, what am I thinking? I don't need a third one. I couldn't sleep. So then I was like, okay, forget it. I've announced it. I don't have to go. I don't have to prove anything now. I've got 2 world records in 2 days. And so I binned the dive psychologically, mentally. And then my buddy Anna called me. She's like, are you ready? And I was like, no, I'm not going. I didn't sleep. No, come on, you're the heroine of the day, the big excitement around this competition. You've got to come, at least, enjoy it, even if you don't do the dive. So I went to Blue Hole. She persuaded me to get in to do my warm-ups. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, She persuaded me to go to the line. I'm not going to do it. But just, look, you can get down to 56. It's easy. I mean, and then, you just pull up if you don't want to swim. Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay. So, and I did that, and it was the easiest of all 3 because I was not at a single point was I stressed about doing a 56-meter no fins dive. Yeah. Because I just didn't think I was going to do it. And I went from, okay, I just do the duck dive and I'll swim a little bit. Okay, I do the free fall. I know I can do 56. It's an easy depth for me. Free fall, there's a plate, there's a tag. I may as well swim a few strokes and see how it goes. And I was just relaxed, and I mean, it was crazy. But it's the mindset that you take into it.
Yeah, exactly.
It totally determines the outcome. I mean, it's I've seen it in every single, my first 200-meter attempts, I blacked out on both of them. And I wasn't ready. I was not it was too close to my mum's death. It was a year after she died. And I should have taken a lot more time for myself. And then, I did the 104, and I'm coming out of there as if I just stepped out of the shower. It's,
But that's how it should be.
Totally.
I remember 2007, I didn't train for 10 weeks because I had inner ear infections. And I announced 75. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it seemed like a good number because I'd done 76 with fever. And I remember, I've been at competitions when people say, I don't know why I blacked out. What happened? I had the most amazing warm-up hangs I've ever had. I was 30 seconds to a minute longer. And then I blacked out. So my first hang was almost 4 minutes without a contraction. And I'm like, uh-oh, I've never had a hang like that ever. And it's building up. Yeah. And then I remember Will Trubridge and I both announced 75. Herbert announced 78. Will had been training. And I see Will surface and black out on the surface. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to 50 turn if my ears let me go, and I'm done. And I remember, same thing. I'm not going to the bottom. And I got to free fall point, and I noticed I moved my head, and my body started to do this, so I was playing. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then part of me said, maybe you should go to the bottom. Yeah. And I was like, well, I should test the arms. And I did one arm pull, and as I was completing the second arm pull, I slammed my head into the bottom plate. I didn't do a mouth fill. I equalized from here. Yeah. And I went, no, it's not possible that I'm already at 70. Well, I might as well swim up.
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful, easy dive because I had no expectation.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, you see people going into competition now, and they're so wound up, and, maybe less experienced divers, maybe they've got their first sponsor sitting on their shoulders with expectations, they've got their own expectations, and, you can see some I mean, some tragic dives, really. And you know, my heart bleeds for these divers, because you just want to go, look, just drop the stress, drop the fear, just go and do the dive, have an awesome time, you know, enjoy it, because really that's what we should all be getting in. And whether it's a competition, a training dive, you know, 20 meters off our PB or 1 meter on top of our PB, it should all be the same thing at the end of the day. You know, these numbers just mess with the mind so much.
The numbers, and I find, you know, there's an organic process that takes place. There's conscious learning when you can read something and intellectually understand it, like certain concepts in Tai Chi or Bagua or Qigong or yoga. But then there's the embodiment of those concepts, which takes place organically in its own time. And really, truly, in freediving, there is an organic learning that takes place, and that requires time. And what I see in the new breed of freedivers is everybody wants to get deep right away. Everybody they want to, you know, so what's the trick? What's the $1 million thing? There is no $1 million thing. And people are pushing, they're squeezing, they're rupturing eardrums, they're hurting themselves for a number. And moreover, that stress and strain that they take to 60, they're going to carry with them to 70, to 80, to 90, and 100. And at those depths, that could be quite grave. You know, it's the same in, I remember at the Bagua class, this guy, a new student, came. He said, "Are you a master?" "No. Master Yang is the master." "Oh yeah, but you guys are senior students." "I guess." "So when will you be a master?" "I have no idea." He goes, no, but, you know, like, don't you get like
you get your certification?
Yeah, exactly. No.
Yeah.
And I remember Master Shu, who was the last Tai Chi teacher that I had, with the Yang style Tai Chi, I arrived in the long form. I did it perfectly, meaning that position of everything was perfect. He said, now you can teach, but you're only able to teach the form. I wasn't able to teach any of the internal dynamics because I hadn't been taught them. So I was able to teach the form because I knew the technical specifications of where the foot, the knee, and everything would be in relation to one another, and I knew how to teach it, but I couldn't teach the internal chemistry of the energetics or any of that because I wasn't at that level yet. And I was trying to explain this to this guy. He goes, yeah, but can't they tell you, you know, you'll practice this, you know, for 3 months and no, because it might take me 10 years. It might take you 3 months. You don't know. Everybody's different.
Yeah, I mean, this big rush, I mean, the certification thing of, you know, I've got my piece of paper now, then I can prove that I'm X level, whatever. And this big rush to become a teacher, a master, or whatever, you know, the next level always. And freediving is a spiritual practice for me, first and foremost. So when I dive, it's a meditation. It's, I mean, when I say it's a spiritual practice, it's really, I am surrendering to a higher power, the power of the universe, because there is no way, if I'm in my ego and I don't surrender, that my body is going to accept the pressure that the ocean exerts on it. I will have some kind of injury if I can't accept and I can't surrender. So really, for me, the process of doing a deep dive is absolute trust and absolute surrender. And there's never going to be anyone who can say, yeah, you can do that now. You've got your certification in trust and surrender.
Yes.
You know, it's an experience that you have to have. You know, you said you can read a book. You can get the knowledge in your head, but you have to have a physical experience in the body to truly understand what is the concept of trust, what is the concept of surrender. If you haven't experienced it, it just remains a concept. It's kind of outside of you.
But there's always this, I used to hate this when I was in my early 20s, because someone would say, well, you'll understand when you're older. And that means basically just solely with the passage of time, you will arrive to that level. But now that, you know, I'm past the half-century mark, and I look back, and it's true. There are things that there's ways of approaching things that has changed for me. I've met people in their 30s that are far more evolved in their 30s than I was, and probably than I am now. But you know, there's the organic process, and there is no certificate for it.
No.
I like in the ocean. I remember wiping out on the first wave of a 12-wave set of 6 to 8 meter waves. And what do? I hold my breath, I duck down, I hold on to the bottom, I get dragged, I pop up, get a breath, and I do this until they all pass and swim out. And I have no choice about it. Then I got caught in a rip current. And, you know, I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm tired. Can it get any worse? What can I do? Who can I get pissed off at? You know, am I going to punch that wave? I'll teach you. No way. You just like, you surrender to it. You go, okay, well, I know how to deal with the rip current at the right moment. I paddled out of it. Paddled, got all the way back out. Look out. Oh no.
Here come the waves again.
Another set. And I'm paddling like an idiot to get over them. You can never fight the ocean.
No.
I remember a friend of mine. He was in the Coast Guard, and he quit. I said, "What made you quit?" He said, "I was on a destroyer. There was, I forget how big the gun on the foredeck was, like this big metal, and a rogue wave rolled over the bow and over the deck, and it bent that into a pretzel form."
Seriously?
Yeah, and he said, including the captain, everybody thought they were going to die. They thought that wave was going to, it hit the bridge. They thought it was going to just destroy the boat. And he said, I don't ever want to be in the sea in conditions like that ever again. He said, it's frightening. You have no control over it. And I think that's the thing, the only control that you have in absolute depth is to let go and to surrender to the pressure, as you say. If you don't, you struggle. If you struggle, you hurt yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is very similar in Tai Chi. You yield and redirect, you surrender, but you never give up your center. And that's one of the things that I always remember. There's a certain stage in the dive when I'm not only paying attention to the air in my mouth, which I'm using for equalization, but I'm then here in my dantian. My attention is in both places, and I'm focused and just letting it take place.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've both benefited a lot from our very different spiritual practices, but all spiritual practice leads to the same point ultimately.
For sure.
So, and it's good to see more people are practicing yoga, but we were talking about this earlier. The growth of the yoga market has sort of become, if you're skinny and flexible, you can be a yoga teacher. And do people really understand the whole spiritual side of what we're doing? It's not about whether you look great in Lululemon pants, even if they are see-through or not, I don't know. There's this depth that people are missing because it's hot yoga and it's, it's a competition. They're comparing each other, looking at each other in class.
Yes.
And
I've met more than 24 yoga teachers who've injured themselves because of that competition, trying to do the next pose, trying to do the thing, because they took their body too far. And then hundreds of students that have been taken too far by their teacher push themselves to get to a pose instead of letting it take place organically.
I mean, it's awesome when you see a really good yoga teacher who's mastered the poses and is working with themselves and with the energy within and using the environment, but it's not enough, and I think this is the same in freediving, that people are unaware of the energy that goes into a good freedive. I mean, in yoga we talk about there's prana with a little p. For me, this is the inhale, this is the oxygen that we have in the lungs, and then there's prana with a big P, and that's what you would call your chi or your kundalini energy. This is your life force. This is the one that you really want to be connecting with and relying on, because that's the energy that's going to make the difference between a good comfortable dive and one of those dives when you just go, what just happened?
Yes, exactly. And that's what everybody's looking for. That moment, either in the dive, on the surfboard, in the meditation, that when everything comes together.
That's the bliss of what we do.
But I see a lot of people are, it's like a dog chasing its tail, running around for that moment. The moment passes them by.
Yeah, because they're too busy chasing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, myself, when I look at the evolution of my approach to no fins, free fall. Excuse me, what? Why would I do that? I don't want to do that. My first
Down and up as quick as possible.
First mid-70s dive, I swam down all the way and swam back. I wasn't going to free dive. I'm swimming down. I'm just going to muscle it out. But there was a moment where it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I free fell. Part of me was like, I'm not doing anything. Okay, it's kind of like a meditation. Okay, well, you don't do anything in meditation. You just pay attention. Okay, I'll pay attention. So now I'm having a dialogue with myself about when, boom, and I hit the bottom.
Yeah.
And swam up, and I was like,
maybe there's something in it.
that was really easy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, listen, we've got to wrap it up now.
Yes.
But it's been great having 2 chances to talk to you about your sharks and the Waterman Project, and also your upcoming record attempt, whether it's going to happen this year or next year. We wish you luck.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you in Dahab again soon.
Hopefully this summer for more training.
Awesome. Let me know. And we'll go and have dinner.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you for stopping by again for my lovely chat with William Winram. And join us again soon for more Freediving Legends. Sat Nam.